Jeff Mayhew, Madisonian Republicans. I'm here with my wife,
Vanessa. And I mean, Jeff, I've been watching you read for like 2.5 years now, and I figured this would be a great time for me to start asking some questions. So let's get started, okay? So, let me see. I got some cards here with some questions. What is something that you have learned that you would like to share?
Something I've learned that I'd like to share. The Republic, right? Like that's what I talk about all the time is the Republic. So it's the structure of our government. It divides and separates power. The federal authority and the state authority are separate but work in cohesion, right? And our republic is different than other republics because we separated both the federal, the state, and then we have this other authority, the people, right? That's what makes us so unique, and that's what is so wonderful. That's what I want to share with people that I've learned.
All right. Why do you feel so passionate about representation?
Okay. So representation, I say this all the time, is communication, right? And so where we have a republic that divides and separates power, we also have it through a system called a representative democracy, where we basically, the citizens have a right to vote, have a say, and we vote in what we're supposed to be a virtuous representative. And their job is to listen to us and to talk to us. They're our communication device to power. And so that is why I think people should be very focused on their representation and why it's so important to me.
Okay. What are our representatives' responsibilities?
So depending, you're at the state or the federal level, those specific responsibilities are different. However, if you look at it more of an abstract point of view and you kind of zoom out, the representative, like I said, job is communication. They're there to talk to us. So realistically, representative listen to inform, and how they do that is by studying and reading history and law, okay? And so what they're supposed to do is get us together, talk to us, listen to our problems, and then share what they know. Share about the history, share about the law that overlaps, that layers over top of what we're going through as citizens, and then we're supposed to come to like solutions together, right? And that's the communication part. I mean, think about it. We're married. Our relationship is dependent on good communication, right? Mm-hmm. And so the same is true when you have a self-governing republic, that the strength of that government is based on the communication, and that's our representation.
Okay. All right. So this doesn't happen very often, but if an average citizen finds themselves in front of their representative, what should they be asking them?
Well, there's a lot of different things. You could ask them why 435? Why do we only have 435 representatives? You could ask them why not uncap the House. You could ask them about Citizens United. But I think the best thing that you should ask them is, what are you reading? That's what you should ask your representative. Because like I said, their job is to listen and to inform, and how they do that is by studying and reading law and history. And that's a full-time job. Law and history we have thousands of years of that, and no one person's ever going to be able to keep up. So especially in times where like there's a lot of responsibility on that representative, you want them dug into the law and history all the time. So if you see them, they should have a book in their hand, realistically. And if they don't, they're not doing their job.
All right. Okay, so now I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I do not read all of this historical stuff. Jeff kind of dumps it down and brings me up to level. But this book right here, A Well-Behaved Woman, if you guys have ever watched The Gilded Age, this is such a good book. This is based on The Gilded Age. It talks about Alva Smith, who became Alva Vanderbilt, and kind of like how in that part of history, she was a woman who didn't feel like her voice was being heard, and she found a way to build a legacy for herself. It's a very, very good read. If you haven't seen Gilded Age, you should watch it, then read this.
Is it all Gilded Age? How many pages did you read yesterday?
I mean, I got till around 200.
You read 200 pages in one day?
Yes.
That's like
It's very good book. Very
She teases me. I only did like 150 pages yesterday. So, I mean, who's the nerd now?
All right. So, enough with that shameless plugging. All right. So now it is one of my favorite points in our talk. It's game time.
I know you love to play games.
Yes. I have created this game. We have picked out some of your books, and I'm going to basically point to one of them. I am going to say what it's on, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Good leader or bad leader?
All right.
Okay.
I can do this.
All right.
I'm prepared.
All right. So, first book I'm going to use is James Madison, America's First
Politician.
All
right. So, you pick James Madison. I name my organization Madisonian Republicans. Of course, he's a great leader. But let me tell you why he's a great leader. So he's a thoughtful man who does his homework. He studied the Greeks, the Romans when contemplating writing the Constitution. And he was a man that really believed in, like, one of my favorite sayings is iron sharpens iron. I tell you the story, it's actually in this book, the Liz Cheney biography, but the story of where his wife, Dolly Madison, which I say, you're a little bit of Dolly, you're a little bit of Abigail, right? So a little bit of Dolly, she loves to put on these very extravagant parties. This is very prime in the social scene of Washington. When he's the Secretary of State under Jefferson, Jefferson has parties where he's just like him and like 12 other guys, dudes that all kind of think the same way. Madison's the complete opposite. He wants everybody in the room, and he wants to talk to everyone because he understands his strength is in understanding everybody else's perspectives, so he can grow his knowledge. John Quincy Adams, one of my other favorite leaders, he writes in his diary like how magnificent these talks with Madison are. And they both, I think, and all of these guys during this time period that go to these soirees that Dolly puts on, really benefit from that. And I think that is his greatest strength as a leader, is to be able just to study, prepare, and then take in all different types of perspectives before making a decision. Informed decision maker.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. Game time here. We're still playing that one we did in our last video, Good Leader, Bad Leader. So, the book I'm choosing for this is John Quincy Adams and the Politics of Slavery.
All right.
Good leader, bad leader.
Great leader. Now, when you're talking about all these people, there's pluses and minuses, right? John Quincy was a remarkable person. He followed his father, John Adams, who was second president of the United States, who was instrumental in getting the Declaration written. He went over to Europe during the Revolution. He was over there trying to secure funding, and then also negotiated the Treaty of Peace with Paris with Benjamin Franklin. So he watches all this stuff. He becomes educated. He reads and studies, kind of like Madison, right? Mm-hmm. He comes back. He's minister to Russia. He works under or ambassador under Washington, and he's key and instrumental in helping communication during the quasi-war to avoid war with France during his father's administration. He works with Jefferson. He works with Madison. He works with Monroe. He becomes president, but by this point, he's kind of like, he's been away from the United States for so long, he kind of doesn't understand the American people. Not the best president. You know, just like one of my favorite people, not the best president, I think he could have made some better decisions personally. But great leader, okay? Because he loses the presidency to Andrew Jackson, who I talk about a lot, and he goes back to Congress, and he serves there from the day till the day he dies. Literally nearly dies on the congressional floor. And the reason he goes in there is to fight the slaveocracy. He sees this evil of slavery. He knows that our founders wanted rid of it, and they start to institute these rules, the gag rule, and different types of things to obstruct our people's representation, our people's voice in, speaking out against this barbaric act. And he says, no, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to be a strong, virtuous leader. And that's one of my favorite things about him. That and the fact that he kept a diary from this whole period of time. So you can read firsthand accounts of what he thought about all this.
All right, guys, back here again. Game time, good leader, bad leader. Let's see. which book do we want to do here? Let's do... Washington.
Washington. Great leader. See, the trick is, all these guys are great leaders. So Washington he was a stoic, kind of authoritative leader. He was kind of a passive leader. He learned from his mistakes. He was sometimes hesitant in his decision-making. He didn't talk his problems out loud like Madison did, so maybe to the novice or somebody sitting back, they might have thought, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. But realistically, he was an internal thinker, and he processed information that way. He learned on the go, and he was humble. He was willing to admit when he made mistakes and grow and learn from it. He took a very balanced approach with the federal constitution and the federal government when he went in. And then most of all, he was our Cincinnatus, right? Like, he was the guy that had this immense amount of power and was like, no thanks, I don't want to be a king, right? Because everybody was kings. There was already a King George. We just fought a war over it. And he was like, I'm going to ride off into the sunset. That's my favorite thing about Washington and his leadership.
All right. All right, guys, game time. Good leader, bad leader. Book we're going to talk about today is... Did I already do this one? American Lion?
You have not.
American Lion.
Andrew Jackson. Okay, there's another Andrew Jackson biography I have, but I've lent it out so other people can read about it. So that's exciting. Andrew Jackson was a good leader. Okay, he was principled. He stood his ground on the most important issues. He was a constitutional Union Republican. He believed in the Constitution, the way that it was structured. He had muddled views about slavery, but he did believe that the Union held, precedent over this, and that the people were the sovereign power of the country. And he held strong against nullification. I think he did a good job. I mean, it's complex. He was a military guy. His life was difficult. He very different than John Quincy Adams, not privileged at all. During the Revolution, he loses his mom and brother. He is slashed in the head from a British soldier. He's kept in imprisonment, watching people around him die at the age of 12, I believe it was. This is when he loses his mom and his brother. And then he comes out of that. He ends up entering the military. He rises to success through that, and then ends up becoming presidency. Maybe a little bit outside of his wheelhouse as far as the intellect. He wasn't a strong reader like Adams or Madison's were, but what he lacked in that type of leadership skills, he made up for in human relationships. He was very, very honest in his take of the world. Doesn't mean he was always right, but he was honest, and I think that makes a good leader.
Okay. All right, guys. Good leader, bad leader. Book we're going to talk about now. Let's see. Lynching.
Well, we already did Madison.
We already did Madison.
We got these two left.
Oh, okay. Let's do James Monroe.
James Monroe. So, overall good. I mean, out of all of these guys, maybe he was the least charismatic, strong leader. But he was a virtuous guy. He maybe wasn't the smartest, but he was kind of like Washington in a way. He learned on the go. He listened well. He internalized his things. So again, the same type of thought process was. He wasn't as strong of a leader as Washington, but it also the times called for something different. But I think that overall, good leader. Overall, good person. Again, that honesty factor goes away. Did he make all the good decisions? Did he have all the right views? No, but he did have some really great ones, particularly his perspective on having a well-educated citizenry in a virtuous, self-governing republic was very important to him, and he talks about that a lot. So.
All right, guys, last book for good leader, bad leader. We have John Adams.
John Adams. I love John Adams. So John Adams was one of my first biographies that I read, and I related so much with John, and I talked to you relate with Abigail. John Adams is blue collar, first generation money, realistically. He never really obtains the money, he just builds the platform for his son to have it. And when I say money, I really should say wealth. And wealth is not actual money, but time, right? He gets his son time to study, where he didn't necessarily have that. and made him a little bit of a petty man. He was very insecure, so that HBO series where what's his name plays the character, Paul Giamatti. I mean, perfect casting. That's exactly who I thought. With that old curmudgeon Paul Giamatti playing John Adams, it's perfect. But overall, like, extremely reasoned, thoughtful, faithful leader who really tried to do the best he could. He may have been off on some things, but again, like, his steady leadership during his presidency avoided war with France. There were hotheads all over the federal government at that point. Hamilton was a war hawk, man. He wanted to seize control of the military. That was really his objective. He wanted to settle grudges. Jefferson wants, to protect the French. Hamilton wants to go to war with the French. And meanwhile, John Adams is stuck in the middle, trying to serve the American people. And he does. And he avoids war, which was great for us at the time. And that makes John Adams a great leader.
All right. I think that's it, right?
We have one more, actually.
Oh, no. Okay, which one? This one?
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys. I thought last round was the last round, but this one really is. Last book is Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Man, I don't know. A lot of times I would say yes, great leader. And he was an excellent writer. The Declaration of Independence is wonderful. He was thoughtful in his reasoning. He was very abstract, very idealistic. A lot of his tendencies led towards revolution. He would be, I think, probably considered like a libertarian, small Democrat, or limited government libertarian now. But when he was in the presidency, he expanded his role, right? He used that power of the presidency. He used it a lot for partisan beliefs, but I think he thought he was right in a lot of circumstances. He led the impeachment trial of Samuel Chase. He led the treason trial of Aaron Burr. Some people would say these were political witch hunts, realistically. Others would say he was testing his powers to see how they could limit other powers that were popping up in the federal government. So I think he's a complicated leader to understand. His personal endeavors. He was kind of messing around with all different types of women. He's famously impregnated a slave and fathered children there. Not necessarily the moral upbringing you want in a president, but at the same time, take into account time and circumstance. He had a difficult life. He lost his wife, who he loved deeply. He lost so many of his children along the way. I think that definitely shaped his thinking about the world. Probably not in the best. I think he would have been a little bit different had his wife lived and had his children lived. Maybe grounded him a little bit more. But if you have to make me choose, I'm an optimist. Good leader.
All right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the game. All right. I had fun. Did you have fun?
I had fun.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We might do this again. You have anything to say?
No, I'm good.
All right. Peace and love.